Welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm Sal Internado here. Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon. Don't you wish you had some secrets to help you get an edge on your business competition? Wouldn't it be great if someone could solve technology and personal challenges at your company that you don't have the time or expertise to fix on your own? There is a solution. Higher Echelon is a world-class consulting firm that trains employees in sports psychology secrets that drastically improve work performance. Founder Dr. Joe Ross is retired Army who played and later coached for the cadets and puts that experience to use for his clients. Higher Echelon helps organizations shave hundreds of hours off work time and save and make more money by walking them through technology transformations, including organization-wide change management. You don't have to go at it alone, and you don't have to stay stuck. Higher Echelon is your go-to trusted partner for organizational excellence. Go to higherechelon.com. That's HIGHERECHELON.com or call 866-469-9945 today to take your company to the next level. Go Higher and go Army. Now we want to welcome in our very special guest tonight, Army men's lacrosse coach Joe Alberici, coming off a huge win over Syracuse. And we really appreciate Coach taking some time to talk to us about that win, about the season so far, and what's ahead on Saturday. Coach, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Sal, thanks for having me on Black Knight Nation. Really appreciate the coverage.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, watching that game on Saturday, I was kind of glued to my TV. You know, at the start of the game, you see Syracuse maybe have the upper hand, but you kind of sense there was a little fight in this team. And for what you guys were able to do at the end of the first quarter and into the last three was just an amazing effort. What can you say about how the team fought in that game?
Yeah, certainly. It was a great showing of grit, determination, and toughness by our guys. Falling down 6-1, Sal. That wasn't in the scout report or game plan. That wasn't what we were looking to do. You may know that it was 8 of the last 10 meetings between us and Syracuse have been 2 goals or less, and the other 2 that weren't 2 goals or less were a 3-goal and a 4-goal game. So we've had some real competitive contests, but we fell down, back 6-1. They really played quite well throughout that time. I felt like we were executing what we wanted to do. We just weren't executing it at a high enough level, and we caught a break. They had a stick penalty, an illegal stick, and we got a chance to get an extra man goal. And then we really stabilized at that point out of the middle. So our face-off guy, Steven Graber, started to give us some face-off wins. And then our All-American goalie, Wyatt Schupler, started to play like an All-American and started to make some saves. And then slowly, we just kept getting the ball to the offensive end, and we were spectacular on that side, outscoring Syracuse 17-5 over the last 47 minutes. So even as I say it, Sal, it doesn't sound too real. That's what they've done to other teams over their history. But it was a great showing, great execution by our guys, and certainly showed a lot of toughness throughout.
Yeah, and some of those goals, I wrote that those were some of the SportsCenter highlight goals there. I mean, just from the passing, from the effort. Of course, I mean, it starts with Brandon Nicktorn, right? And then Bobby Abshire coming up. And also you had some guys really step up too. You had a local guy, right? Nick Edinger too. He's a senior, right? To have his first career hat trick, I believe, in that game. So, I mean, you were getting scoring. It seemed like everybody was filling the scoring role for you guys in that game. That you guys that are
sure,
that's their assignment, right?
Yeah, no question. I mean, you get to 18 goals. It is definitely a group effort to make that happen. And you're right on with some of Bobby Abshire's goals. They actually did make it to the SportsCenter top 10. Bobby had all kinds of notoriety coming out of that Scott Van Pelt show, and did pretty much about, I think they showed 3 or 4 of his plays on SportsCenter. So He's a wonderful person and somebody who Bobby had missed his freshman year because of injury. And then last year it was shortened season. So not much of the nation knows Bobby Abshire. He was a preseason first team All Patriot League guy. So the conference knows about him, but that they were introduced to him nationally. So he was nothing short of terrific. And then, as you had said earlier, Sal, a lot does run through Brendan Nicktorn. He's one of the top attackmen in the country. Last year was a third-team All-American, an All-American as a freshman, the first Army freshman to be an All-American since 1983.
Wow.
So he's off to a tremendous start. Although we didn't play as well as we would have liked against Virginia, he had 5 points in that game, 6 against Syracuse, or 7 against Syracuse. So just a terrific player, really played well in terms of production, but also in terms of controlling our offense. And we played at an aggressive pace, but certainly not a reckless one. And Brendan has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, you were talking about Wyatt, and I think this week he was named to the Division I national team for his effort against Syracuse, right? I mean, I look at the start of that second quarter. I mean, he really, they had some chances pretty up close, and he was able to turn them away, or just deflections or just gaining possession. That was 100% key in the comeback, no doubt, right?
No question. Syracuse is a tough team, a very difficult team to stop from shooting. They just got some premier athletes in our sport, some outstanding skilled players. So their offense, it's going to result in a shot. So defensively, what you're trying to do is decrease the level of that opportunity. Maybe it's angles that you do that in, and then it comes to goaltending. And Wyatt really stepped up, played great. Again, as I said earlier, stabilized us, I thought. And then as we started to get some things going offensively, maybe that the Syracuse offense might have started to press a little bit and played into our hands somewhat. But it did start with Wyatt's play in the goal, as well as Stephen Graber's job at the faceoff X.
Yeah, no doubt. And watching that game, you saw a graphic with the guys that Syracuse was returning. They had a couple All-Americans back for their 5th year. I don't know if you take into account that your team, right? Last year you were on had a pretty good season going until it got cut short by COVID. So these players have been hungry to get on the field, no doubt, and show what they're worth, and that they're one of the top teams in the nation, I imagine.
Yeah. So last year's team was off to a great start, and the 2020 group, I just feel even to this day awful, that they didn't get to complete the mission. As juniors, they had won the Patriot League Conference and finished 14th in the country. And then we were off to a tremendous start, having beaten UMass and Rutgers back-to-back by a combined, I think it was like 31-9 score. We really blew them both out. Both were top 20 teams. So we were off to a great start, and we're 6-2. I think we were 14th in the country at that point when things got shut down. So I know that group felt like the best lacrosse was still ahead of us. We unfortunately, even though we got off to a fast start, we weren't able to finish what we set out to do. And the uniqueness of the spring sports for us, Sal, is we lost 7 starters on that team. So there were 7 guys that had huge roles for us on the offensive end, the defensive end, in defensive midfield. So we got hit with that graduation. And then some of the teams that we've played already, Virginia, Virginia, as well as Syracuse, they returned everybody. So nobody left for graduation. They're all in their 5th year. And then in addition to that, the Ivy League didn't allow for that. And Ivy League in lacrosse is several of those teams are amongst the top 10 in the country. So those young men who had a 5th year went and seeked other places to play that last year. So Syracuse, Virginia, Duke, Carolina, a lot of those schools not only have all of their own players back, they've got other players coming back. So the significance of the Syracuse win, when they finished last season as the #1 team in the country, the abbreviated season, and then they returned everybody. It was quite a significant win. Anytime you beat Syracuse, it is, but maybe more so this year.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the history between Army and Syracuse, right? It goes back. It's probably, I mean, is it a rivalry of sorts, do you think, or no?
Well, we certainly think so. It's Syracuse is one of those teams where they had a streak through the '80s and in the '90s into the early 2000s of 24 straight Final Fours. So they have been the standard bearer of lacrosse, 11 national championships. We've played them every year that I've been here, which is I started my first season was 2006. We've played them every year but one. One year we missed, but we've had some great games with them. We probably the most memorable win against them came in 2010 when they were the two-time defending national champion, and we went up in an NCAA tournament game. Had lost to them earlier in the season, and then beat them in double overtime. So that was a significant one. And then throughout that decade, some great games. We beat them in 2017, where we scored with a half a second left. But they've clearly gotten the better of it in terms of wins and losses. But they've always been, they've always brought some of the best out of the Army lacrosse teams.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm not going to ask you to compare 2010 to on Saturday. I won't ask you that. But the 18 goals were the most against Syracuse dating back to like 1968. Or something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so
right. Yeah. So, I mean, 18 goals in lacrosse is a lot. And then you do it against the #4 team in the country. It's quite an achievement. And the guys, again, just played great, played very unselfish. I think 11 of our 18 goals were unassisted. So it was a really good effort put in by a lot of different guys. It clicked on a lot of levels. Our transition was very good. Our extra man offense produced a couple of goals. So it was a lot of different sources, Sal, and which you need to in order to get to that number. So great game, but we have I think our guys have done a really nice job of moving on. Tuesday we talked about it a little bit more. Being a Sunday game, we gave a Monday off. Tuesday we talked a little more, and then headed out to practice and set our sights on the next one.
Yeah, now you in ranks number 6 and 7 in polls right now. Your team after that win, and just the schedule that you had to start off, right? Virginia and Syracuse off the bat. I don't know many teams that are playing the non-conference games with those caliber of those two teams, right? Is that something that was set on the schedule? Or is that something that happened in between the COVID break and stuff, or?
Yeah, so Sal, it was an interesting story. Virginia, we got on the schedule a week before, so we were scheduled to play UMass, and that has been our opener for the last 11 years. And a little bit of history about UMass. That is, they were, I think, preseason 11th in the country. So I mean, it was going to be a heck of a game, and I got a call Sunday morning. Or a text Sunday morning. I was about 8:30 in the morning. I was coming out of church, and I look at my phone, and it's the UMass coach, who's just a tremendous man and a tremendous coach. Greg Canellas just texts me. He says, "Hey Joe, we're done. We can't. We're going on a 2-week pause, and so we're not going to be able to play." So we have a 9:30 meeting. Our staff does. So I go in there, kind of break the news to them and let them know and what we're going to do. And Brendan Nicktorn gives me a call. And apparently on the broadcast the day before, Virginia was playing the day before. And they had a void in their schedule. So they were like, "Hey, Virginia's looking for a game." So Brendan texted me, told me, "Hey, Virginia's looking for a game." So I called them immediately. I'm like, "Where'd you hear that? Is that, from a high school teammate that plays down there, or what's your source?" He said, "No, they said it on the broadcast." So I'm longtime friends with the Virginia coach. So I called him, and it really fit well in terms of the testing protocol that we were doing for UMass was right in line with what Virginia needed. We were set to travel overnight So, basically we just had to redirect our buses, and even that cell, we were playing them on a Saturday, and then weather down in Charlottesville, of all places, not up here in West Point, but down in Charlottesville, was made it unplayable. So we ended up bumping it back to Sunday. We got it in, and it was certainly a competitive game all the way through. In Virginia was the defending national champion from 2019, tremendous team. And, they exposed some weaknesses. It was their second game. It was our first game. And we just, no excuses to that, but clearly they were in better form than we were. And we lost 14-9, but our credit to our guys, we were able to take away a lot from that. When you face a team at that caliber, and I think it clearly benefited us as we moved into a game against a similar opponent in Syracuse.
Absolutely, that's great. So Brandon Nicktorn is not only one of the best players in the country; he's also a schedule maker too, right?
Help with the scheduling, yeah. So COVID is, it was. I watched football and Coach Monken and how they were pivoting consistently. And you wondered how that would work in our world of lacrosse, and right away, boom, we got hit with it, and we were able to adapt. And I'm really appreciative of our administration and what they did to make that happen and give us the thumbs up on it. And it was no small task, but it got done, and we feel very fortunate to have played that. And you're right, to open your season with 2 top 5 teams in the country is something that not many teams are doing out there.
Absolutely. Can you just talk about what it's been like as far as COVID, just to keep your team ready, like for that Virginia experience too? What's it been like? Have you what are practices like? Are you doing anything that much different than you've done in the past, or?
Yeah, we're a lot around our a lot happens in and around practice that's a little different, just in the terms of how we meet, when you feed them afterwards, just how you go about feeding them, and just trying to limit some exposures in that way. In terms of practice itself, other than the coaches being masked, there isn't too much that's different right now. Early on, we Mr. Buddy had us kind of easing into it, which is clearly the right way to go about it, and all sports, but lacrosse included. So we were easing into it, both physically and just in terms of our contact. So, but now it would look, if you came out to a practice, it would look pretty much like you would anticipate it to.
Did you have to adjust the off season at all, or were you able to?
So in the fall, we have a fall season that would be akin to spring football.
Yeah.
More practices. We end up with about 22 or so practices, and all of those went off quite well. What's a little different is we usually have a scrimmage in the non-traditional season, but that was unavailable to us at that time. So that was the only thing that was a bit different. But credit to our guys, credit to the institution, credit to our athletic department that we were able to keep things on a pretty normal, give it a pretty normal feel throughout the fall.
Now, I guess Saturday's the home opener for you, right? St. Joe's. And
yeah.
I mean, that's got to be pretty exciting for the guys to get back on the Mikey Stadium turf and play, right? I mean, it must be pretty fired, especially coming off that Syracuse win.
Sure. I think they are very excited just based on how we've practiced and really focused on a very good opponent in St. Joe's. St. Joe's has taken on a very tough schedule themselves early season, Delaware and Towson, and two traditional powers in our sport, and have come up a little short, but they're a very good team. Tremendous face-off guy, which is pivotal in our sport, and they've got one of the top 2 or 3 guys in the country. So that's going to be a big challenge for us. They're tough kids. They play the game really, really hard, and are very well coached. The young man who's well, he's not so young now. I guess he's in his 40s, but Taylor Ray is their coach, and I was his assistant coach when I was at Duke. So know him well. And this is one of these ones, Sal, that came up maybe in December. I don't typically like to play my close associates, and we like to have some allies in the sport, right? Yeah. So you don't want to turn them into your enemy, even for a day. But both Taylor and I were looking for games, and we just had this void in the schedule. So we said, okay, this will be a 1-year deal, and I knew when we signed up for it that we were going to have our hands full. So I'm really excited for our guys and the challenge that they have in front of them, because it's different in that you're not playing an ACC school, and you're not the hunter, so to speak. Now you have a ranking, a higher ranking beside you, and a hungry opponent. So we've got to, we know they'll bring it, and we've got to be certain that we are bringing our energy, enthusiasm, and then our mental and emotional focus to it.
Absolutely. If anybody's watching live and you have any comments or questions, please feel free to send them in. I was thinking about, when you're talking about your relationship with the St. Joe's coach, I was thinking about Army football this fall when Jeff Monken had to play Georgia Southern. Where he came from. It's like he didn't really. When I used to talk to him about that, he's like, that's that, and he would never want to play Paul Johnson ever. His mentor. He never. So that correlation I came up with. On Saturday, will there be any fans around for you guys in the stands for you guys, or are you going to play it empty?
Yeah, so we'll be in an empty stadium, and as I was telling the guys, it was a little different in the Dome. One of the great things in the Dome is to silence their fans. They have a pretty good crowd by lacrosse standards, and vocal crowd. So when you do win, it's nice to bring some silence to them. Well, we didn't have that opportunity to bring silence. It was silent. It just wasn't silent with anybody else. So Mikey will be different in not having our fans and a lot of family there, but it will be streamed on ESPN Plus, and as I said to our guys, you got to bring your own juice. You got to bring your own juice, and hopefully we'll be up to the task.
That just this season, what you have, it's 2 games in, but you said you lost seven starters from last year's team, and I was just want to maybe pick your brain a little bit about guys who have stepped up into roles that maybe you could talk a little bit about. We know Nicktorn and Abshire and Wyatt, but I mean, who are some of the other guys that have really in the first few games or even in practices that are showing you some improvement this year?
Yeah, so at attack, playing along with Brendan, we lost 2 seniors in Miles Silva and Sean O'Brien. So we had to replace those, and we replaced him with Nick Edinger, who was a senior and had switched to attack in his sophomore season and had played a backup role. And as you mentioned earlier, it was terrific, had 3 goals against Syracuse. And then you had Aiden Burns, who first year starter as a junior, and he had a hat trick against Virginia and against Syracuse. So he's off to a great start there. So those guys really have stepped up on the offensive end. In the midfield, Bobby we kind of knew what he was all about, and Nick Garofano, one of our captains, has been in a staple in the lineup for the last couple of years, sophomore and junior season. And then Gunnar Phillip was another young man who, like Bobby, got injured his freshman year. Gunnar was actually scored the very first goal of our first game against UMass as a freshman. Beautiful move. And the next time out, he broke his foot. So his next run at the midfield. So he missed his season, and then things got shortened last year. But he has been an impactful guy in the midfield for us also. Dan Kobasa, another guy, Danny had a good solid year last year. He was a guy, once again, injured as a freshman. So those 3 middies all missed their freshman year and then had an abbreviated sophomore year. But Danny's been a terrific job. He's a do-it-all guy for us. and then keep working our way back defensively. And we've asked Brian Lehman is a first-year starter for us, and he's playing LSM. Tyler Olbrich, another first-year starter at sharing that position. And then our short stick DMs, James Pryor, Matt Horace, Doug Jones, Liam Davenport, and Brendan Murphy. Those guys, Brendan Ryan. I got confused, Damon Murphy and Brendan Ryan. Brendan Ryan has done a wonderful job for us. So that was a strength, kind of what we've known. They've had some great experience. And then back to close defense, we had to replace two guys there. And Jack Wygant has been nothing short of spectacular. He has had a great first couple games, great preseason. He's a first-year starter. And then Kyle Byer Kyle Byer had played a lot up in another position, and we moved him back. And those guys work around Marcus Hudgens, who Marcus is one of the very best defensive players in the country. So he would be very similar to who Brendan is as an attackman, and his status as one of the nation's elite. Marcus is the same thing on the defensive end. And so we had some great talent coming back, young talent coming back, but clearly we needed a lot of guys to step up the roles. And, I just kind of ran through many of them who have done that for us.
When I was listening to the broadcast against Syracuse, I heard the announcer say multiple times Nick Garofano and his bench press is 350. Coach, is 350 accurate?
Yes, it is. He is a tremendous athlete, explosive, strong. His squats, and he's only 185 pounds. I bet you if you looked at defensive backs in the NFL and those numbers, his would be on par with those. He has all of that. So terrific leader, as well as a physical specimen.
Want to ask you about another player. He's on the younger side, but I recently was told this story. Quinn Benny, a guy for you. Apparently, he's fought through some injuries, maybe a couple knee injuries, and he's looking to get on the field for you guys. What can you tell us about Quinn?
Yeah, Quinn is a tremendous story, a tremendous guy. He is so he had an ACL in one of his knees as a sophomore in high school, and played football down at the Woodlands in Texas. So high level, I think it's 5A, 6A football, and he was a starting safety for them. I know he had come to one of the football camps here, and was the MVP, I think, defensive MVP of one of their football camps here as his junior year. So really great athlete. Goes into the spring of his senior year playing lacrosse, and he tears his other ACL. So at that point, because he was not physically fit to come in directly, he's a tremendous student, like maybe about 3.9 student, but he ended up at the prep school for a year, rehabbed, came in the next year, and then last fall, his freshman year, he tore the knee that he tore as a sophomore. So this is his third ACL that he's gone through, and he's really on the cusp of playing for us. He just, he has worked so hard to put himself in position to be that guy, and a great inspirational guy for our team, because they know what he's gone through, how hard he's worked, how hard he plays. And they have just great respect for how he handles himself, and his ability to, within the classroom, and his selflessness throughout. He's always there to help the guys out. So tremendous person, tremendous story.
Yeah, his dad's a West Point grad too. So yeah, I saw Quinn at that football camp, at that prospect camp. I was in attendance for that prospect camp, and he was playing quarterback too, and he was doing some pretty like things that you don't really see. Just a combination of a football player and a lacrosse player. It was unique enough for me to follow his story, so to speak. Coach, before we leave, just wanted to ask you one more thing. It's just about you hear about the football team, and especially right now, it's pro days coming up with John Radigan possibly having a chance at the NFL. Now your players have the opportunity to play pro. Can you just discuss that? And I know you've had a couple go through the Major League Lacrosse too, right? So
yes. So thanks for asking us, Sal. We have so it's a different story than the NFL, where the NFL, that's your living. In pro lacrosse and what that is now, it's more of like a side job. So very few people are just making their living playing lacrosse. There are a few that will play indoor, outdoor, and make it that way. But it is something that the commitment is more from surrounded around a weekend type of thing. If you would think of the NFL maybe back in the 30s, like that. That's kind of what I draw to. So, but it is elite. It's the highest level that you can play. In my 15 years, I believe we've had 18 guys drafted. So we've had a great run. The last 2 years, we've had the first selection in the draft, first defenseman selected in the draft. So Thomas Rigney last year was the 4th overall pick and the first defensive player selected. And then the year before that, John Surdick, who was a National Defensive Player of the Year. It's called the Schmeiser Award. He was the first defensive player picked in the draft. So Tommy played in the MLL, and John had played in the PLL, and now those leagues have merged. So we have had players throughout our history play. Garrett Thule and Adam Fullerton have both had long pro careers, and then also played on the USA team too. So that's the 22 best players in the country, and they play for a world championship. So we've had some great players that come through that. Jeremy Boltus, who was part of that 2010 team, and was one of our all-time players. Jeremy had played, was the rookie of the year in the pro league. So we've had some guys that have been able to do it with their military service. So their military service has always come first, but have had commanders that have released them, when needed on the weekends. Again, is what it mostly turns into. So it's a great value for us in recruiting, because we're able to point to a lot of guys who've done it, guys who want to continue to play beyond their 4 years. And, hopefully we'll have more guys in the future drafted and given that opportunity.
Yeah, I was able to write about a local player that played for Yale, Joe Sessa. And he was like, oh, well, I'm working on, he was working in the city, maybe finance or something like that, and trying to find weekend time to go play in the league and stuff like that. But I mean, it's great for guys coming out from your programs, especially the success you have in your program, to keep playing, right? That's a big deal for them, I imagine. So
yeah, no doubt, it's the love of the game. They're compensated, but it's so it's probably, as a young guy, a little pocket change is not a bad thing, but it is definitely the love of the game, and to be able to play it at that high a level is something that I know they find to be very fulfilling.
Yeah, Rick Johnston just popped in. Remember him?
I know Rick.
He called your games, right? He called your
games? He did. Wow, he's great at what he does. So yeah, and he was tournament. He was a lacrosse player himself.
Okay.
And was always very, very good to our program. So appreciative of it, and we still exchange texts now and again. Good man.
Right. He had a little scoop there that Garrett might be making the comeback. So
he is, yes. Yeah. So Garrett has just finished, or will be finishing, his military career. So he put 8 years in, and was a company commander and infantry guy, and now as a so I guess he'd probably be about 31 now, 30, wow. 31, and he's going to make a comeback into the league, or at least give it a shot. So I've seen him. He sent me a couple of videos of his workouts, and he's a monster right now. I mean, an absolute, probably about 230, but just very jacked up in terms of his muscles, and he doesn't look like many 30-year-olds. I can tell you that. So I know he's putting in the time physically, and I'm certain that he's polishing his skills too. So it will be extremely competitive, but I'm hoping for the best for him. He's a good man.
Yeah, just one more. I mean, that's what it's all about. You talked about him being the company commander. That's what you know, your players. I mean, maybe molded. You're getting them coming out of high school or sometimes the prep school, but they're being molded into leaders up for our country, right? And coaches at West Point do have a part in that mentorship, so to speak, right?
Without question. Yeah, I mean, we from an adult perspective, we spend the most time with them. So they're just with us all the time. Being a Division I athlete and what that takes. So we feel in our lacrosse program that we do have a big role in helping them develop as a leader, helping them to see a cohesive unit that hopefully as when they become leaders in the Army, that they'll model or they'll look to parts of it and model. So it's I'm very proud of our guys and the leaders that they become in the Army, and they do it in a lot of different ways. We have an enormous amount of young men who really gravitate towards the special forces and into the Rangers and special operations and do some awesome things there. And then many others who just really do a great job as leaders in other ways and go on to have successful military careers, go on to be successful husbands and dads and as well as when they do move into the civilian world. So I'll share a story about lacrosse players, and this is data provided to us by the Army. Since 1980, they tracked all of the recruited Army lacrosse players, and they are battalion commanders at twice the rate of the regular student body. So,
wow.
It's going back over 40 years. 40
Wow.
years. Battalion commanders is typically somebody in charge of 500 plus people, and the lacrosse players are at twice the rate of the general students. So now that's not any pat on my back. I've only done it for 15 years, so my guys aren't even old enough to be battalion commanders. These are guys that have Coach Emmer, Coach Edel, Coach Pisano. Those are young men that they coached, and but the program has done a great job of feeding the Army tremendous leaders.
There's certainly a tradition of lacrosse at West Point, no doubt, and it's not even on the field, but also like you say now, serving a country. Amazing there, Coach. Really appreciate the time. You can catch the Black Knights on Saturday, host in their home opener, play St. Joe's. It's on ESPN Plus. Army looking to go 2-1 and follow up an incredible win over Syracuse. Coach, we can't thank you enough for your time tonight and your insight into the program. Really appreciate you having you on.
Sal, thank you so much. It's a real honor to be with you and on Black Knight Nation. So I appreciate you reaching out and appreciate the coverage.